Derek was 27 and finally living alone. No roommates to steal his snacks. No parents asking why he microwaved fish at midnight. It was just him, his rented apartment in a tall, slightly peeling building, and the promise of uninterrupted solitude. Friday night had arrived like a gift from the universe. Derek had prepped the essentials: a large pepperoni pizza, 2 chilled cans of beer, and his favorite old blanket that smelled vaguely of fabric softener and mild regret. He had already kicked off his socks, adjusted the lighting to cozy cave, and queued up a movie he'd been meaning to watch for years, The Sixth Sense. Wrapped in his blanket like a lazy burrito, sitting in nothing but underwear and a soft t-shirt, Derek pressed play. The opening credits rolled, and he felt a calm descend. This was it. Peak domestic bliss. No responsibilities, no drama. Just pure dumb peace. Until, bang, a thud came from the wall. The kind of deliberate bang that says, "I hear you, and I hate it." It was the neighbor again, the one who could somehow detect when Derek crunched a chip too loudly. Rolling his eyes, Derek decided to be considerate. He grabbed his Bluetooth speaker to keep the sound contained and closer to him. He disconnected the laptop's internal speakers, paired the Bluetooth, and hit play again. But something was off. No sound. He checked the speaker, then the laptop. Still silence. Confused, he tapped the volume. He clicked pause and play again. Still nothing. Then it happened. He heard Bruce Willis. Not in his apartment, but outside. It was faint, but unmistakable. It was his movie, and it was coming from somewhere else. Curious and confused, Derek walked to the window. He looked across the alley at the apartment directly opposite his, and nearly dropped his beer. On a massive screen inside that apartment, The Sixth Sense was playing. Exactly the same frame. The exact same timestamp. Somehow, his laptop had cast the film, wirelessly, to his neighbor's smart TV. And at that precise moment, the woman who lived there stepped into view. A glass of wine in one hand, her gaze lifted toward her television, and then out the window straight at him. There stood Derek, in his underwear, wrapped in a blanket, holding a half-eaten slice of pizza and staring at her in pure horror. This was not part of the plan. Derek didn't move. He stood there at the window, still clutching his pizza like it was a lifeline. His mind scrambled to process the absurd reality unfolding in front of him. He was accidentally broadcasting The Sixth Sense straight into his neighbor's living room. Live, in high definition, without permission. She was still staring at the screen, then at him, then back at the screen. The realization must have clicked for her too, because her expression shifted from curious to confused to something that looked suspiciously like amusement. Derek backed away from the window, as if he just flashed a stadium. His heart was hammering. Somehow, in his attempt to be polite and use a Bluetooth speaker, he had managed to go full suburban hacker. Panic took over. He lunged back toward the laptop and tried everything he could think of. He mashed buttons. Escape. Spacebar. Volume mute. Turn off Bluetooth. Turn on Bluetooth. Fling the speaker across the couch. Nothing worked. The movie was still going, and the haunting whispers of ghost children continued to echo. Not in his apartment, but in hers. In a frenzy, he tried to shut the entire laptop down. But even it seemed to glitch. It froze, then beeped, then displayed some cryptic message about external casting device connected. External casting what? It suddenly hit him. The last time his friend borrowed his laptop, they had used it to stream YouTube onto a smart TV during a party. And clearly, the connection had never been removed. Now, thanks to one unfortunate click, Derek had become the unintentional entertainment provider for the woman across the alley. He paused, sweating. Somewhere, deep down, a sliver of him almost admired the chaos of the moment. Here he was, just trying to watch a movie in peace, and now he was moonlighting as a rogue streaming service. The worst part? The movie was actually getting good, but there was no time to enjoy it. Not while his neighbor was possibly thinking he was some kind of half-naked tech creep. His brain came up with only one solution. He needed to go over there and explain. Now, even if it killed him. Derek had never gotten dressed so fast in his life. Well, technically, he didn't fully get dressed. He just threw on the first hoodie he could find, zipped it halfway, and shove his bare legs into the nearest pair of sneakers. No socks, no dignity, but at least he wasn't in his underwear anymore. Technically, his heart was still pounding as he left his apartment and stepped into the hallway. The air smelled like old radiator heat and someone's forgotten toast. Every footstep echoed like a warning bell. The walk from his door to hers was maybe 15 feet, but it felt like a mile of shame. With every step, he rehearsed what he might say. "Hi, sorry for the movie beam. Hello, I didn't mean to invade your entertainment space. Please don't call the police. I just wanted to watch Bruce Willis in peace." None of it sounded good. He stopped in front of her door, stared at it for a second, then raised his hand to knock, only to pull it back like he'd just touched fire. What if she was furious? What if she already called building security? What if she was now watching him through the peephole, wondering what kind of bizarre exhibitionist thinks a smart cast surprise is a good way to start conversation? But there was no turning back. His laptop had betrayed him, his couch fortress had failed him, and his pizza was getting cold. He knocked. Silence. Then footsteps. The lock turned, the door opened, and there she was. Face to face. Same wine glass in hand. Same relaxed posture. And worst of all, the movie was still playing in the background. Derek could hear the exact scene continuing on her TV. He forgot every single word he had rehearsed. His brain melted into static. The next 5 seconds felt like a vacuum. Awkward, dense, and full of unspoken absurdity. And then, something unexpected happened. She didn't slam the door. She didn't yell. She didn't even look annoyed. She smiled. Derek hadn't expected a smile. He was ready for confusion. Maybe sarcasm. Possibly a door slammed so hard it'd knock his sneakers off. But a calm, friendly smile? That short-circuited his already overloaded nervous system. It wasn't just a polite, it's okay smile. No, it was one of those warm, effortless smiles people give when they're in control of the situation and watching someone else spiral. Which was exactly what was happening. Behind her, the unmistakable glow of the sixth sense continued to flicker. Derek saw Bruce Willis's blurry head in the background and immediately wanted to dissolve into the hallway carpet. She took a sip of wine, leaned casually against the doorframe, and waited. Waited for what, though? An apology? An explanation? A confession? Derek's mind was still blank. Every word that tried to leave his mouth was intercepted by panic. Even his breathing sounded suspiciously guilty. He felt like a weird salesman who had accidentally broken into her Netflix. And that smile didn't help. It somehow made the whole thing feel worse, like he was the punchline to a joke he didn't understand yet. Then something clicked. She wasn't mad. Not even close. She had enjoyed it. That thought hit him like a second pizza to the face. His brain tried to reboot the logic. Accidental film hijack. She watches the movie anyway, smiles at him like he did her a favor. It didn't add up. It shouldn't add up, but it was happening. Still stunned, Derek managed a sort of nod, mumbled something that sounded like, uh-huh, and slowly backed away, not out of fear, but out of sheer mental overload. He returned to his apartment like a man who had just experienced an alternate dimension. He sat back on the couch. The movie had stopped playing on his laptop, but it was still going over there, across the alley, and she was still watching. Derek sat on his couch, motionless, staring at the blank screen of his laptop. The SmartCast connection was gone now. As mysteriously as it had activated, it had vanished. The movie no longer played in his apartment, but it was still going strong across the alley in hers. He peeked through the window again, cautiously this time, like someone approaching a wild animal or a social obligation. Sure enough, the glow of her TV lit up the room, and she was still sitting on the couch, sipping her wine, completely unbothered, still watching The Sixth Sense. Derek blinked. She had kept watching. She hadn't turned it off. She hadn't switched to something else. She hadn't called building management to report a half-naked guy with a rogue projector brain. No, she was treating it like a normal Friday night movie. And somehow, that made it weirder. This was no longer a glitch or an accidental stream. This had become something else. Something vaguely resembling a shared experience, without consent, conversation, or coordination. Derek grabbed his beer, which had gone lukewarm, and took a long, dramatic sip. He looked at his pizza, cold now, slightly congealed, still sitting on the coffee table like a forgotten side quest. He sighed, walked to the window again, and just stood there, not entirely sure if he was watching her watch his movie, or if he was now just part of her entertainment too. Then, another surprise. She lifted her wine glass in his direction. Not dramatically, not like a toast, just a small, casual gesture. Acknowledge and continue. It was surreal. He hesitated, then lifted his beer back. Their glasses floated in the air for half a second of mutual absurd understanding. Two strangers silently agreeing to continue whatever this was. He sat back down, opened his laptop again, and started Googling how to control SmartCast remotely without dying of shame. Derek had officially given up on fixing the tech. His laptop stubbornly refused to reconnect, and every helpful YouTube tutorial felt like it was mocking him in slow motion. He closed the lid and slouched deeper into his couch. Across the alley, The Sixth Sense played on, and his mysterious, wine-sipping neighbor was still locked in, completely unshaken by the fact that this screening came from a man who, just 20 minutes earlier, had been in his underwear mid-pizza bite. Then it happened. The scene changed. A major plot point was coming. Derek remembered enough to know that this was the twist moment. The one everyone spoiled in memes. The one he'd somehow avoided all these years. But he wasn't watching it. She was. And the idea of her watching it alone, while he just sat there with a warm beer and regret, suddenly felt wrong. He stood up, crossed to the window, and hesitated. This was ridiculous. This was also somehow the most connected he'd felt with another human in weeks. Impulse took over. He opened Facebook, found her profile. They had exchanged names once in the elevator months ago, and shot his shot. Hey, long story, but can you pause the movie for like 5 minutes? My pizza kinda died. He hit send before his brain could stop him. Then, without looking away from the window, he waited. She reached for her phone, glanced at it. Then, without even turning her head, she reached for the remote and paused the movie. He saw it freeze on her TV. Derek blinked. That worked? He waved at the window. She didn't wave back. Not exactly. She just held up the wine glass again, as if to say, "You're up next, pizza boy." Derek looked at his cold pizza and headed to the microwave like a man on a mission. This wasn't just a movie night anymore. This was something else. Something almost dangerously cooperative. As the microwave hummed and slowly reanimated the sad slice of pizza, Derek leaned on the kitchen counter and stared blankly at the wall. How had his quiet, solo movie night transformed into a remote-controlled, window-to-window film club with a stranger? He pulled the slice from a microwave, steam rising off the cheese like the ghost of dignity lost. Still holding the plate, he walked back to the window. She was there, waiting, patiently. Wine still in hand, the film paused mid-scene, casting a soft blue light across her face. They locked eyes again, and this time there was no panic. No deer-in-headlights tension, just quiet mutual recognition that somehow this was happening, and it was fine. Not knowing what else to do, Derek gave her a slow thumbs up. She responded by pointing at her TV, then tilting her head with a small shrug, the international sign for, "Ready when you are." Derek sat down, rewrapped himself in the blanket, and opened Facebook again. Okay, let's roll. Within seconds, the movie resumed. 2 apartments. 1 film. No words. No sound shared. Just flickering light, cold snacks, and an unspoken agreement between 2 mildly dysfunctional adults pretending this wasn't completely insane. As the scenes played out, Derek caught himself reacting out loud, even though no one could hear. A chuckle at a line, a dramatic gasp when the plot thickened, and every so often he'd glance at the window just to check if she was still watching. She always was. At some point, she laughed, not loud enough for him to hear, but he saw it in her shoulders, in the way her hand covered her mouth. It was oddly comforting. It felt like watching a movie with someone, without the small talk, the awkward commentary, or the pressure to be interesting. Just share time, framed in glass. Halfway through the movie, Derek started wondering if he was dreaming. This was too strange to be real, sitting alone in his apartment, watching someone else watch the same movie he tried to watch himself, communicating only through accidental technology and brief window glances. And yet, Here he was, holding a reheated slice of pizza, mid-blanket cocoon, completely immersed. The movie kept playing, and neither of them touched their phones again. At some point, Derek noticed she had turned on subtitles. A polite move. Thoughtful, even. She probably assumed he couldn't hear what was going on in the film. And, well, she was right. He couldn't. But now, thanks to the mirror TV across the alley, he could read it. So, technically, he was watching a subtitled version of a movie he didn't even have control over anymore. And yet, it felt better this way. The absurdity of the whole thing had reached such a calm, surreal equilibrium that it no longer felt wrong. It just was. Outside, the streetlights buzzed. Inside, his own apartment was still dim and quiet, save for the flicker of distant dialogue and his laptop, now fully abandoned. He thought briefly about how easy it was to ruin a Friday night, and how much harder it was to accidentally rescue one from disaster. This woman, this total stranger with excellent wine posture and an unshakable chill, had turned his personal tech fail into a cinematic moment he would never forget. Not because of the movie, but because of how they were watching it. Together, yet apart. Silent but synced. Separated by bricks and windows, but still somehow in it. It was weird. It was cozy. And it was kind of beautiful. The final scenes of The Sixth Sense were rolling. The infamous twist was moments away. Even though Derek technically already knew what was coming, thanks to years of memes, parodies, and internet spoilers. Watching it this way made everything feel fresh again. He wasn't just watching the movie. He was watching her watch the movie, and she was clearly fully invested. She leaned forward on the couch, her wine untouched now. The room dimmed, probably on purpose, to let the screen glow brighter. Derek could see her face, lit only by the TV, reacting in real time. She gasped. He saw her hand fly to her mouth. The twist had landed, and despite having known it all along, Derek felt something unexpected. Joy. Not because of the movie, but because he got to witness someone experience that moment for the first time, live, across an alley, through 2 panes of glass. The credits started to roll. She leaned back, exhaled, and shook her head slightly, the way people do when a film actually gets them. No performative reactions, just genuine surprise. And then she clapped. Not loudly, just a few gentle, appreciative claps. Derek instinctively joined in. 2 claps, then 3, through his own window. Alone. For no one. She noticed, looked over, smiled again. This time, it was different. There was no awkwardness left. No trace of the half-naked panic that started this whole mess. It was just 2 people who somehow, by sheer accident, had managed to share something strange and intimate in the most bizarrely distanced way possible. And then, she stood up, left the frame, returned seconds later, holding something. A small, white projector. Derek watched, puzzled but intrigued, as his neighbor reappeared at her window, this time cradling a small white projector like it was a delicate, precious thing. She pressed a button, and the device hummed to life, casting a soft glow onto the wall behind her TV. Without thinking twice, Derek grabbed his phone and typed a quick message. "Wait, are you bringing the cinema to me now?" Almost immediately, a reply popped up. "Only if you promise not to break it." He chuckled nervously. This was no longer just an accidental movie night gone weird. It was turning into something else entirely. Derek moved to clear space on his coffee table, pushing aside cold pizza and empty beer cans. He figured he might as well embrace whatever this was, a strange window-to-window movie club with a wine-drinking woman who apparently didn't mind broadcasting Bruce Willis scenes next door. She waved lightly from her window, and Derek raised his own hand in return. Their windows became tiny stages for this silent, absurd communication. The projector cast the movie larger and brighter, but now Derek had control of the screen again, or at least a shared control. He settled back onto the couch, wrapped snugly in his blanket burrito, and waited for the movie to restart. Whatever this was turning into, Derek knew one thing. This was definitely not the quiet Friday night he'd planned. With the projector now glowing softly in Derek's apartment, the movie flickered back to life on his wall. The warm light made the room feel bigger, cozier, like an impromptu private cinema. Derek sat back, feeling the strange but welcome comfort of sharing this odd moment with someone he'd never properly met. Across the alley, through the glow of their respective windows, he imagined she was watching too, maybe with a smirk or a sip of wine, while he munched on reheated pizza and tried to act casual in his hoodie. He realized this accidental streaming disaster had somehow turned into an unspoken movie date. No texts, no awkward small talk. Just two people watching the same story unfold, connected only by the glowing rectangles and the thin air between them. For the first time in a long while, Derek felt something warm in his chest, something like hope. Maybe the best nights weren't the ones planned perfectly, but the ones that surprised you. And this night, it was definitely a surprise. Just as Derek started to relax into his newfound movie date, the projector flickered. The screen glitched. Static crackled. Derek's heart jumped. Not again. He fumbled with the remote, hitting buttons at random, trying to fix the signal. The image froze, then pixelated wildly, then went black. Across the alley, he could see her silhouette moving. She raised her wine glass in mock protest. Derek sighed, rubbing his temples. Technology was clearly conspiring against their cozy setup. But then, with a shrug and a small laugh, he realized something. Maybe this was perfect. The broken screen was just another layer in their accidental connection, a bit of shared chaos to bond over. He picked up his phone, typed a quick message. Technical difficulties, but I'm not giving up. Moments later, her reply popped up. Me neither. I'm in this weird movie night till the end. Derek smiled. The pizza was cold again, but for once, he didn't care. The movie was off the screen again, leaving Derek alone with the hum of his apartment and the dim glow of his laptop. Just as he was about to resign himself to a solo night, his phone buzzed with a new message. How about you come over? I've got snacks and wine and maybe less glitchy tech. Derek stared at the message, heart racing. Was this real? Was she serious? Or was this some kind of joke born from the weirdest movie night in history? After a moment's hesitation, he typed back. Only if you promise not to judge my blanket burrito look. Seconds later, the reply came. No judgment here. Only popcorn. A strange mix of excitement and nerves flooded Derek. From a simple plan to watch a movie alone, he had somehow ended up on a path toward a face-to-face meeting with a woman across the hall. He glanced around his apartment, suddenly aware of every pizza crumb and hoodie on the floor. He stood up, took a deep breath, and prepared for the most awkward and possibly best night of his life. Derek stood outside her door, hoodie half-zipped, hair a mess, and clutching a six-pack of beer like a peace offering. His heart pounded louder than the elevator ding. He knocked, rehearsing his lines in his head, all of which sounded terrible. The door swung open, and there she was, smiling, relaxed, holding a bowl of popcorn and wearing fuzzy socks. No judgment. No awkward stares, just warmth. He stepped inside, instantly overwhelmed by the cozy clutter, books, plants, a cat that eyed him suspiciously. They settled onto her couch, the projector humming softly nearby. The movie started again, this time on her terms. And somehow, in the middle of the strangest, most accidental movie night ever, Derek realized that maybe this was exactly how it was supposed to go. The credits rolled, the projector's soft glow fading into the night. Derek and his neighbor sat side by side, the awkwardness finally melting into a comfortable silence. No words were needed. The shared experience, from accidental streaming to an unexpected invitation, had created a strange bond neither had expected. As the last song played, she smiled and whispered, "Next time, maybe without the accidental broadcasting." Derek laughed, heart full, and nodded, because all he ever wanted was to watch a movie. But somehow he ended up starring in the weirdest, most wonderful story of his life. I just wanted to watch a movie, and found so much more.